Welcome everybody to Spirituality Adventures. This is a non-judgmental place to explore spirituality, and we're so glad you're here. This is a viewer and listener supported podcast, so we greatly appreciate your support. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, share, and subscribe to any of the social media content platforms that you're using. And then if you go to our website, spiritualityadventures.com, you can make a one-time donation, or with a monthly subscription, you'll gain access to our bonus content. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome everybody to Spirituality Adventures. We're so glad you're joining us today, and we are excited to have Mikala Petillo. Did I say it right?
You did.
All right. With us today. Thanks for joining us at Spirituality Adventures. Yeah, we don't really know each other, right? One of my friends, Tom Rickman, I bumped into him just last week, actually, and he was going, he was asking me about the podcast, and he was like, "Hey, you need to check out Mikala." And so I said, "Really?" I said, "Okay," and I started listening, and I think Matt Cox, my videographer guy, he had been to one of your concerts. Is that right?
Yeah,
Matt?
I've been to a few.
Oh, cool.
The last one was Noah's birthday show on Halloween. That was was that 2 years ago or 1 year ago?
Oh my God.
It's
Probably before
it's been
COVID.
a while. I think it was before COVID.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And then you've had a long history with Tom Rickman as well.
Yep.
And his son. And
Yep.
so that's really cool. So thank you so much for being here. Yeah. Let's kind of jump into your story, introduce yourself to the audience, and where did you grow up, and tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I grew up in KCK in Wyandotte, and I went to a Catholic private school up until 7th grade. But that's really where music started for me. I was in the church choir, and I sang a lot. I was not a good singer. I was not like a born natural singer, but I do think I was kind of more of I was born with some kind of musical talent, because I would always play the bongos along with the choir, and then I picked up guitar and started playing in church. And then I moved up to Parkville, and I graduated from Park Hill South High School. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which Catholic school did you go to? I'm just curious.
Christ the King on State Avenue.
Okay. All right. Catholic girl.
Yeah.
Good Catholic girl, right? No,
I was a really bad kid. I would get sent a lot to the principal's office. I was just hyper.
Yeah. Well, that's great. So you started did you have a musical family? Kind of what was your family context?
Here and there. My grandpa was a singer in New York. And that was heavy mob, literally I'm really related to some mob royalty in New York. There's a whole podcast about my great aunt Anna Genovese. But anyways, he was a singer.
Oh, the Genovese family. That's one of the 5 families.
It is, yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. It's it's kind of crazy.
Oh gosh.
So he was a singer, and my Auntie Joan played guitar. My dad, he had a drum set when I was growing up, and I think he'd play, and I would kind of mess around with it. And he played a lot of music as I was growing up. We would just listen to a lot of music. So I was the only one in my what's the word, atomic family, I don't know if that's
nuclear family or
nuclear
whatever.
family, yeah. That really took it seriously, and
maybe you can have a nuclear atomic family, explosive.
Yeah, could define my family. Yeah. But yeah.
That's good. Yeah, so what were you listening to when you were was it your grandpa, or who were you listening to?
Mostly my dad would play music.
Yeah.
He'd play a lot of different stuff. He'd play Led Zeppelin or Beastie Boys, Van Halen, What else would he play? Enya. Just a
Pretty
wide
eclectic.
range. Yeah, he
Beastie Boys to Enya,
Police.
right?
Yeah. I definitely had like a wide range of influence, but a lot of it was like rooted in rock for sure.
Okay, cool. So what your first instruments and because you play a bunch of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how did you start develop? Like, did you start doing lessons? Did you learn on your own? How did you?
So our like choral director at our church started giving guitar lessons. So me and my two best friends like started like taking guitar lessons, and I remember that like it was like $10, and it was just like every Wednesday after school. So my first guitar was one of those little first act guitars from like Walmart, and like it just was like my total escape. Like every day I would play it, and I was also really getting into like the Beatles at that time and kind of like formulating my own kind of relationship with listening to music. So I would like learn all these Beatles songs, and just like I was just like my world for a little bit. And then
Like early Beatles, later Beatles, all of it?
well, it actually started with the movie Across the Universe, which is like a movie that is like inspired by Beatles songs.
I love that movie. I've watched
it's one of
that
my
2 or 3
favorites.
times.
It's so
Probably
good.
3 times.
Honestly, I think they did the Beatles a lot
Who
of
was
justice.
the guy that was the main singer in that movie? What was his? Do you remember his name?
The actor?
Yeah, the actor.
Jim Sturgis?
Yeah, he did an amazing job.
Yeah, he's pretty
That's
incredible.
a cool. I haven't met too many people that know that movie. So
Yeah, no, it is a little underground. But it's one of my favorites.
I love that movie. Cool.
So it started by just listening to that soundtrack.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, wait, these are songs like that were done by this band? Like they all wrote these? Like I didn't even know,
Wow.
So then I would just like sit at the family computer and look up the Beatles on YouTube and just watch everything I could. And I would just like watch all their music videos and like, them on Ed Sullivan and all this stuff. And I got really into them.
Fun.
Yeah. And then the game Rock Band came out, and I started playing drums, and then I was a drummer, and I kind of forgot about guitar for a little bit, and I was a drummer for like 8 to like 9 years, and took that really seriously up until like I got out of high school, and then I started kind of picking up ukulele and guitar again, and I had to learn piano because I started teaching, so I taught myself piano, and yeah.
Wow. Did it come easy, or was it like super both, just lots of work but some natural talent?
Yeah, it felt like I knew, well, I could hear it, and I can always hear it in my ear. And so I figure if I can hear it, I need to match it and, figure out, like, with the drums, it's just a matter of like limb needs to be where. But with the piano, it can be more like you can just hear it in your ear. And so I would just teach myself my scales, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, and I would just figure it out and, go from
That's
there.
a gift. Like not all of us can hear those things,
Yeah, it's interesting because that doesn't make any sense.
I know. And it's so strange, right? Yeah. I'm like, you hear these things? Cool. And then you can play them? It's like, fun. So did you get into some bands early? What were some of your early bands that you were a part of?
So what was the first band? That was probably with my friend Connor, and my friend Sarah and Renee. We had a band called the South Seas. And that was like middle school. And we wrote a couple songs, and like they exist on YouTube somewhere.
Nice.
We did a cover of It's Too Late to Apologize. But I rewrote it to be It's Too Late to Save My Cat's Life. It was a whole thing. I rewrote the song, but that kind of went viral a little bit, like in our school, and everyone was like, "You're such a good singer." I was like, "No, I'm not." And then I was in a band, American Slim, and I kind of followed that through like high school and out of high school, and yeah.
Yeah. So you were in a band with Tom's son,
Yep.
Ethan.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep.
What band was that?
Stained Glass Poets. Yeah.
Stained Glass Poets. So
Yeah.
so Tom's sitting here in the background.
Yep.
Hey, Tom. And I actually didn't know this, but Tom came in today and told me that today, and we're recording, so this will be released a few weeks from now.
Okay.
But we're recording on October 5th, 2021, and 8 years ago was the day that Ethan went home to be with the Lord, right? Or however you want to say that.
Right.
How would you say that?
That's
Is that good enough? All right. Yeah. So we're sitting here today on this 8th anniversary of a friend of yours, whose life ended way too soon, right?
Yeah.
But you were in a band with him. Mm-hmm. And what kind of band was that? What kind of music did you guys do?
We did a lot of rock. We would do like Jimi Hendrix, like Nirvana, and we did original songs too. So Ethan and I wrote a couple songs together that were definitely like in that vein.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think Ethan's here with us.
Always.
Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can remember when that happened, and probably getting a text that day even from somebody, either my sister or somebody. Yeah. So, yeah. Well, so then you moved from there to what, tell us about what's your newest stuff going on now? What bands are you in?
So I have a solo project, Miki P. And it's kind of an umbrella. So I have a band, Miki P and the Swallowtails. That's with my friends, Rachel and Addie. Rachel is a bassoon player, and she's actually working on her master's right now in jazz from UMKC. She's like the first person in the world getting that degree on bassoon. So
that is so cool.
She's pretty cool.
I go to the Blue Room quite often. And there's nights when when UMKC students come and do, and that's always one of my favorite nights.
Yeah,
is when the UMKC students play jazz at the Blue Room.
Yeah, it's
so much fun.
It's awesome.
So that's cool.
So
this is like the first person that's done jazz at UMKC on the bassoon.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and I think like
what's her name
in the country? Rachel Lovelace.
In the country.
Yeah. Yeah, like not many bassoon players. That's not the route for that instrument. It's usually like classical,
yeah.
Which she has her undergrad in. So, and Addie, my bandmate, does as well from UMKC.
And her name is Addie
Dancy.
Okay.
And they have
I
a
searched
project called
everywhere
Sister
online
Bot.
to find out who's the Swallowtails.
Yeah.
And I see your pictures everywhere, but I couldn't find the names.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like secret.
we want to keep people engaged.
Yeah. Well, it's cool. It's good stuff. Yeah. So you guys have done 2 albums. Is that right? Or
so
how do you,
as a band, we've done 1 album, and we did an EP before that.
What's the 1 album that you did?
That's just solo. So I released my first album, Dome of Swallows, just on my own.
Okay.
And then after that, I wanted to put a band together because I missed being in a band with people.
And so then that right where we are is the Swallows release. Is that right?
Yep.
2020.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We recorded it in 2019, but we had a lot of pushbacks. Just life happened, you know, and it took a while to get that album out.
Okay. And then you did an EP with them as well. I missed that one, I think.
Yeah, it was like half Swallowtails, half me. It was when I was still kind of figuring out like where that kind of lives, that band was gonna live. Mm-hmm. And it was just called Swallowtail, the EP, mm-hmm. and it came out in 2008 or 2019, like August of 2019, I think.
Okay. All right. So who on Dome of Swallows, then you wrote all of the songs on that
mm-hmm.
album, and then did you write most of the songs on Right Where We Are, or did you collaborate with the other gals?
It was a little bit of both. Because I would write the song. I would write I'd sit down with my guitar and I'd write out the lyrics. So the song, I would present the song done. And then we would collaborate the like cello and bassoon parts. So with that album, we were figuring out a lot. And we actually didn't have a lot of bassoon and cello parts like written until we'd gotten into the studio and were recording it. So we started that album by recording the rhythm section. So we did like drums and bass for 2 days. And I was in the booth just like playing acoustic guitar and doing scratch vocals just to inform the rhythm section of what was going on. And Addie and Rachel were in the like engineer room with a piano as we were recording everything, writing out their parts on the piano. So
where did you do that at?
Element Recording Studios with Joel Nanos.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah. So, I love lyrics, right? And
Me too.
I listen, I have to like the music, but then I dive into the lyrics. And so when I like both of them, then that's always fun. So your lyrics to me, obviously that, you're writing about life and the ways you've experienced lots of love and all kinds of things, difficulty and things, but there's a spiritual component to your lyrics that kind of captured my heart in several different places. And I'm kind of curious, like, because when we talk about spirituality on Spirituality Ventures, I'm typically thinking about connection or belonging to self, to others, and to something greater than us that's loving and caring. And so there just was so many of those kind of elements in your music. So I'm curious, like your Catholic background or what kind of, how does spirituality play out in your life and in your music, and how do you see that world? Are you even comfortable talking about that?
I definitely am. I am definitely a spiritual person. I don't know if I would say I'm a religious person. I don't really like subscribe to any one kind of like belief system. But I do like when I play, like something happens and I can kind of feel the ways that we're all like, interconnected, and I feel like my thoughts and like when I write, especially, I'm just a vessel. I have this like quote that I wrote out at the beginning of the pandemic, and I taped it to my computer, and it just said, "Be a vessel for the music." And so I think that there is something that is like making the wheels turn.
Yeah. It's so many writers that I know are like that. They would say that, it's just, there's something going on.
Yeah.
that comes.
It's just like energy, a life force.
A download of some sort.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
That's so cool though. I love that. So in Dome of Swallows, I just kind of made some little notes there, but like the song Who I Am, just a song about like, thinking about like connection to self, right? Belonging to yourself. I loved that sense of kind of embracing who you are, accepting who you are. And I think that's a big part of spirituality. Sometimes even the hardest part, I think.
Yeah, totally. Totally. This world like wants you to like be what it wants you to be instead of just kind of accepting you for who you are. So that's definitely a point I try to make, not only in my music, but I want my music to be a reflection of me, of what I'm going through, for sure. Yeah, I think, and it's risky, right? When you put yourself out there, people can accept, reject, and all that kind of stuff. But being true to yourself is such an important value. Yeah. I ran across a Maya Angelou quote, and it's actually Brene Brown wrote a book called I think it's called Braving the Wilderness, and she starts with a Maya Angelou quote. And I'm going to mess it up, but
she talks about how you basically have to own yourself and be able to stand alone with yourself before you can actually authentically be connected with other people. And that's not a good, that's my paraphrase of it. She said it much more eloquently, and I can't pull it up, but no, but it's like this sense of, you know, if you're trying to play or do whatever you're doing to get approval, then it always messes you up in some way or another, right?
Yeah, for sure. I have experienced that, just trying to fit in or trying to do what I think would make me more successful or liked, or, you know, whatever I'm looking for. It's always kind of backfired. But when I'm honest and it's just my therapy, it's always come out right.
Yeah, that's good. I love the broken-hearted people. I'm one of them, so I can relate. So I'm like going, I agree. I wish there was a cure for me, for Fred, right? Anyway, but no, golly, there's so much brokenness in the world, you know, and it's a part of the human condition. So, but yeah, I've always had a heart for us, for broken people, you know, and I just include myself in that mix for sure.
I mean, I think if someone were to say they weren't, they'd be lying. I mean, everybody's got a story.
Yeah, everybody. In Dome of Swallows, by the way, for those who are listening, you can go on Spotify, Apple, Bandcamp. You can go either Miki P, or you can do Miki P and the Swallowtails, right?
Yep.
And you can check out all this music, and I'd encourage you to do it. You're going to love it. So, but two of the songs on Dome of Swallows, kind of love type songs, the Human Again.
Oh yeah.
I love that, just that simple little makes you see colors, kind of like when love brings you to life.
Yeah.
And I love that little thought. And then the Kansas City song, of course, you gotta love Kansas City.
Yeah.
But it's kind of cool the way you explored love in Kansas City, right?
Yeah, that was a song for my friend Connor, because we would just like go and explore Kansas City, and that was just our thing. And I kind of wrote that song like to her. And I didn't want to make it like a Kansas City song, you know, with all the sights and everything. It was just like, this is a city that we kind of grew up in, and like, I love you, and, you know, we have our time. Yeah.
Yeah. It's such a, so I'm a Kansas City kid, and I grew up here. I love Kansas City. Even after what I went through a couple of years ago, I was kind of so embarrassed and humiliated and stuff. I thought, I need to get out of this town. But then I was like, no, I just need to stay here and own it and face it, and let's see where it goes, you know.
Yeah.
But it was because I love the city. I kind of love the Midwestern vibe here, and I've been in a lot of places, but Kansas City's home for me.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun because there's such a cool mix of independent musicians, artists, in Kansas City.
Yeah. The
art scene is really alive and thriving here.
It is.
And there's so many great independent musicians.
Yeah.
And I've been having fun on this podcast, just getting to know people like yourself.
Yeah, it's so cool.
and others. It's just been so much fun. Well, let's jump into right where we are. So you gave us a little bit about the recording of that. Did you record that in the Element?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so the instrumentation of that album is so fun.
Yeah.
Like can you just talk about some of the instrumentation real quick? And you mentioned some already, but just like there's every song, it seems like there's some different elements to it.
Yeah. I've always been fascinated with like albums and their flow. And so I really focused on that with this one. And it's me on acoustic guitar. And then there's drums, there's bass, and then bassoon and cello. And then there's some background vocals too that I added in. when the pandemic hit from home. I recorded them from home. But that's basically it. I think there is a piano there's a piano acoustic guitar song. But we really just wanted to explore how to kind of like genre bend with these instruments that like aren't normally in like, you know, rock music or even folk or pop, and see how we could try to normalize it and just kind of trick your ear into like hearing a pop song with like these classical instruments that are not playing like that. And then, you know, my guitar parts are just pretty rhythmic. I like to keep them kind of with the rhythm section and percussive. So it's just kind of like the two worlds coming together.
It's fun. Who was on the cello?
Addie.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the bassoon?
Yep.
Okay. And so she's pretty multi-instrumental as well.
The bassoon player or a cello player?
Yeah.
Well, they're two separate people.
Okay, so tell me again then. Who's on the bassoon?
Rachel Lovelace played bassoon, and then Addie Dancy was on cello.
Okay, and this is the Swallowtails.
Yes.
Okay, so you're on acoustic guitar.
Yep.
All right, and then cello and bassoon, and then you're bringing a drummer, a bass player, and keys on some stuff. Yep. Okay.
Yep.
All right, cool. So, of course, I love Imperfect.
Thanks.
It's one of the songs there. What you talk about shutting it off so I can live my life.
Yeah.
What are you shutting off in the song Imperfect?
I remember writing that song on the kitchen floor in my apartment and just feeling really, really low. And so I was kind of referencing just my thoughts. Just like this stream of thought that never stops, and good or bad, the voice that kind of talks against you or like down on you. I was having a hard time.
I just wrote a blog on inner critic, and I talked about my own and like how loud that voice has gotten in the last couple of years since I went through all the stuff I went through. But so when I was listening to that Imperfect song, you were talking about overthinking, and you know, I've always had this racing mind. Of what got me into the problem with Xanax and alcohol was my insomnia. I'd only slept about 3 hours a night for like over 25 years.
Really?
And so, and I dealt with, I just read all night. I functioned on it, but then it started wearing on me the older I got. And so, so that song, you know, and the thinking components and the inner critic thing. And then I wanted to shut my brain off, you know? And so I could definitely relate to that. Easy Sailing was interesting to me as well. This, build a new church with things we can't afford. Let's talk about that a bit.
So I wrote that about a day. There was like a blizzard in Kansas City, maybe like 2 or 3 years ago at this point. And I was actually hanging out with my friend Addie and my partner Trevor. And so we were kind of stuck in our house, and we just like decided to go for a walk. So this song was kind of about like going into this like world that like was, you know, our neighborhood, our home, but like there's this blizzard, so there's no one out on the street, and we're just kind of like paving our own path, you know, walking in the middle of the road. So yeah, I guess like build a new church with things we can't afford. I was always like fascinated by like how expensive the things were, like, you know, in like my like Catholic church growing up. It's just like, you know, hearing about reading the Bible or whatever, hearing about like all these times that like people would like break into the church and like steal everything in there. It's like, well, yeah, it's like gold. Like there's just like so much stuff to steal, like you know, but like building a new home kind of within yourself outside of that, kind of building your own church and just kind of, I don't know, like putting your own gold in there.
I like it's a fun thought. Yeah. Have you been to Europe at all? Have
No.
you ever gone through any? Yeah. So, you've got the thing about going to Europe is you've got these churches that are hundreds and hundreds of years old, way older than anything in America, right? Except for Native American artifacts and stuff, and they're so, God, I mean, the architecture and just the stuff inside of them is just, it's just crazy. And I mean, there is, when you walk in some of these places, there is a sense of sort of like, I don't know, mystery, spirituality to it, something. It just captures some of those things. So I kind of like that idea of, I mean, in a certain sense, I like to think like we're kind of like mobile sanctuaries, mobile churches. If you think like there's this passage in the Bible, it talks about our body as a temple.
Yeah.
And I've always liked that idea.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
take care of yourself because you're a temple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I don't know. It kind of got me thinking along the sacredness of our life and what we build and the adventure to it a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, good stuff. Totally. Good stuff. How about Sarah? I thought Sarah was intriguing. What was? Is that a name of an actual person?
Yeah. That was my childhood best friend, and we had known each other since preschool. And I mean, we were just like, we took guitar together, we got into the Beatles together. I mean, everything was just like, I was over at her house, she was over at mine. We were just tight. I've had kind of an adventure with that song because when I first started writing it, I mean, it just came out. I came up with the guitar part, and then the first thing out of my mouth was the Sarah. And so I just started going with it and come open the door. I mean, it seems like a song that would maybe be like, I'm misunderstanding this person or they're not communicating with me. But as I kind of sat with it more, I realized that song is like, if we have chapters in our books of our life, there's like a chapter of my childhood with the title is just Sarah, and just like all of our adventures and just that amazing part of my childhood. The song is more kind of reaching out to my inner child.
See, yeah.
And like maybe some of the doors that I closed and just trying to get in touch with that and just wondering, where it went.
Yeah. So her coming back is kind of like re-embracing some of
my inner child.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I have a blog. I think I can't remember the title of it. I wrote it about a year ago, Becoming More Like a Child. And I wrote about all the different ways that we need to become more like a child.
Yeah.
And so I love that idea.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I love embracing my inner child. It's one of my favorite things. So
I bicycle a lot, and I still can get on my bike, even though I do it competitively even, but I love the feeling of flying through on a bicycle. It's just like, this is cool.
Yeah.
It's like a kid again.
Totally.
Yeah. I love Define Me. Of course, made me think about what I've gone through. And I remember thinking, okay, I had 2 bad years, because it was so dramatic and it went public and it went everywhere. And then it's like, crap, this could define me the rest of my life. Or I could just say, hey, I had a couple of bad years.
Yeah.
And embrace it, own it, and move forward, and that's really what I'm trying to do. It's been hard, but that song really hit me in my life that, it doesn't define me. It's a smaller part of the big picture. So I'm guessing you were thinking of some kind of situation that happened that maybe you didn't want to define you. I don't know.
Yeah, just home life.
Okay.
Parents. I have a really interesting kind of relationship with my parents, and just not letting their life decisions and how they treated me define me, and kind of making my own story and becoming independent, becoming an adult, choosing what I want for my life and for my future family, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's challenging to talk about those kind of things, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think you don't, I mean, even in my own situation recently, there's things I could say publicly, but then it would sound like, I don't know. Anyway. Yeah. So you were thinking about some difficulties that you went through with your family of origin and all that kind of stuff. And then how this doesn't have to define me. Yeah.
Yep.
I think everybody goes through that to some degree or another, right?
Definitely.
There's degrees. And, we all have to, I would say, like, deconstruct some of the things that we grew up with and then kind of rebuild. And I think that's a part of the faith spiritual journey, is that sort of that, well, who am I and what do I believe and what I don't believe and what do I embrace and what I don't, what do I hold on to from my upbringing? What do I move away from? What do I embrace that's new? That whole process is, I think, a spiritual process, that we
totally
go through. So good stuff. What about, like, the spider? So intriguing. Fighting for our right to be right where we are. It's kind of like an anthem of sorts, right?
Yeah. Like, that song almost didn't make the album.
Really?
Yeah, because I wrote it like a month before we got in the studio. But Addie convinced me.
It's like, on your website, it's the song that you have right on the home page.
Yeah.
So I figured it must have been important.
Yeah, it was, of all of the songs on the album, it was like the genre direction that I wanted to head into, more of that kind of harder rock. So I'm proud of it in, like, the musical way. I think it's a really cool song. But kind of the meaning behind it is I kind of wrote it about, like, women's rights, women's reproductive rights, and just what I believe of that. And it also kind of being a universal theme, that there's a lot of people that are just fighting these kind of systems that are in place to, like, take people's power away from them. People just fighting for their right to exist in this world and have some basic human rights.
Yeah, I mean, that civil rights piece for so many segments of our population, could be minorities or the LGBTQ community or women's, right? All these sort of civil rights issues.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're, you have done some collaboration with a number of people that I've had on this podcast. I don't know if you've collaborated with Ben Went, but I noticed that when you were part of the Save the Rhino thing, which is a concert venue in North Kansas City, for those who don't know. Yeah. And they were like, they had like what was it, a music-thon, or what do you call it?
Yeah, I was it like a 12-hour thing? I think it was like an all-day event, and they just had artists send in, like, pre-recorded sets. Okay.
And then you've collaborated with Sam Wells and Calvin Arsenia.
Yep.
Yeah. So I texted Calvin this morning and I said, "Hey, Calvin, I've got Miki P coming on today. So what should I ask her?" All right. So he gave me a couple things. He said, ask her about. Well, he said, ask her about justice. Which I was kind of thinking about what we were just talking about, like the spider.
Totally.
And is that what you're thinking? Like, when you think of justice, do you think of civil rights? What do you think of when you think of?
Definitely. I'm thinking of people that are kind of left out of the story more often. I don't know. I don't know if I have an answer.
Okay. I have a thought that, so I've studied the Bible my whole life, and the Hebrew Bible, which is Christians would call it the Old Testament. Our Jewish friends would call it the Hebrew Bible. And there's a word called it's mishpat. It's the word translated justice in the Hebrew Bible. But like if you study its context, mishpat is always social justice. So it's always justice for the most vulnerable, for the marginalized, for the poor, for the outcast, for the immigrant, for the stranger, for the refugee, for the widow, for the orphan, like that's always what justice is.
Yeah.
In the Hebrew Bible. And so I love that sort of sense of the Hebrew idea of mishpat, justice, and think that's such an important human value.
Yeah.
We all
that's
need
really
to embrace.
Beautiful. I would agree.
Yeah. And then he asked me to ask you about your heroes and your defining moments. So this is, I hope maybe Calvin will listen in on us here, but these are questions from Calvin.
Musical heroes, I would say, in kind of the recent years, I've really taken to Joni Mitchell, and I love her music, and I love the way that she makes music, but I also love kind of her like principles of life and how like interconnected her music is to that. So I'd say she's probably a hero of mine.
Well, give me an example of some of her values that you're thinking of, or like one, just maybe even one.
I really love her independence and just her perseverance to kind of prove especially in her time. I mean, she like kind of rose to popularity in the 60s and really like held fast in the 70s. And that was just like a hard time for women in music. And we're still like 10% of the entire music industry at this point in 2021. So, I mean, it's just an uphill. I can imagine that her life was just constantly proving people wrong and proving people different about what she could do. So I love kind of her independence and just like, I'm going to do it because this is my life and I don't really care what you're going to box me into. I'm going to constantly just do what I want.
Good stuff. Yeah. Such a strong inner strength, right? I mean,
totally.
It is. It's amazing. Yeah. I admire people like that who have such amazing inner strength. Yeah. So heroes. So Joni Mitchell. Any others?
I want to think of like a non-musical one. I love. I always like draw a blank when I'm like put on the spot.
It's all right.
I mean, I love Dave Grohl. Like, he's definitely a hero. Like if I could choose anyone maybe to like collaborate with in my life and their life, I would love to write a song with Dave Grohl or just get up on stage.
I would love you to do that. and then just to be able to say. I feel like
we'd be a good team because we could switch off instruments.
Yeah. And then just to say that I know that gal who's singing with Dave Grohl. Right? He's amazing. It's so funny because I was, when Nirvana was super popular, I really hadn't clued into them, so I was starting a church in 1990 and just hadn't gotten into the grunge scene.
Yeah.
And then in 94, Kurt took his life or whatever happened. There's a bit of a mystery around it all, but at any rate,
happened very quickly.
Yeah, and then that's what got me into Nirvana. And then I started listening to everything that they did, and I was just going, God, how did I miss this band? And then I got into the whole, then Pearl Jam became, the whole Seattle.
Yeah.
And I love Soundgarden, so I ended up loving all those bands.
But
Nirvana was so amazing. And then, you know, when Dave Grohl went on and did
Foo Fighters.
then you're like going, well, who was the brilliance behind this, behind Nirvana?
Right?
I mean, you know, Kurt had to be amazing, but
for sure.
God, he's such a talented guy.
Yeah, he really is.
Unbelievable.
And has had a crazy life. I mean, I think he's about to put out a book of just like little stories. And I mean, he's just a master storyteller.
I gotta hear this. I've heard one really good podcast with him, and I'm trying to remember if it was Howard Stern that did it. Maybe Howard Stern does some really great.
He's a great interviewer.
Musical interviews, and he's really knowledgeable as well. I've been super impressed with his, you know, music interviews and stuff like that. But I think it was maybe that one. But at any rate, it was fun stuff. How about defining moments? Does that?
Well, there's been a couple occasions in my life where I've definitely had to kind of rise above some pretty dark places. I'd say one of my first experiences really with grief, one of like a real experience, was losing Ethan, and just losing a friend, losing a bandmate. I mean, that was very defining, and really changed the way I look at life and how I think, how I treat others, kind of how finite everything is. And then in 2019, I also lost my mom. So I would say through like my biggest losses, I've probably I've redefined what life kind of is to me, what it all means.
Those are big ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I was curious because with Tom being here, Ethan's dad, and then I was noticing on some of your stuff that Zoe Rickman, and I was like, going, who's Zoe? You know?
Yeah.
So was that Ethan's cousin?
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. And is that she? I don't know.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
is she doing what production, video production?
So she got her undergrad from UMKC in film. So it was just really logical for me to be like, hey, you want to make some music videos together?
So how many videos have you collaborated on with her?
We did like The Spider. We did Imperfect, which that one was so much fun. We storyboarded all of it, and it was just like the four of us all just being a team and making it all work. And those are the only music videos we've done, but we've done also like photo shoots, and she helped us kind of like with our TikTok and everything.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Well, that's fun. So just for people to connect with you, your YouTube channel is Miki P, is that right?
Yes.
And Miki P Music or just Miki P?
I think if you just look Miki
P
up,
it pops up.
It should come up.
And then your website is mikipmusic.com.
Yep.
And anything, what else? How do they connect with you on like Instagram, Facebook,
It's
Twitter?
all Miki P Music online.
Okay.
Yeah.
And TikTok, all of those places.
Yep,
okay.
all the same.
Excellent. Well, this is awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. I was hoping that you would close with one of your songs. Are you willing to do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. Right. So you're going to do a song for us. Thanks so much. So tell the audience this is a new EP that's just coming out.
Yep.
What's the title?
It's called Don't Lose Your Hope.
Okay. People can get it on Bandcamp.
Yep.
And soon to be released on
all the streaming platforms.
All of it. Okay. Yep. And then this particular song is, what song are you going to do?
It's called You Are a Home. It's the third song on the album.
All right. Excellent. Thank you.
Yep. time to unwind. Not really sure where I'll end up, but I'm here and I know that's enough. Just waiting to open that next door. Apparently I'm not ready, neither is the world. Where is home? What does that mean to you? I lost a lot of friends, I lost a lot of family. Learning to let people go, set myself free. The more I breathe, the less I know. And I don't really wanna know. Just waiting to open that next door. Apparently I'm not ready, neither is the world. Where is home? What does that mean to you? If I showed up at your door, would you let me in? If I showed up at my door, would it make a difference? Everything you want, you already have. Feel your heartbeat, realize your mind's racing. Run into your arms, hold your emotions. Accept it all. You can have it all. Accept it all. You can have it all. You can have your all. You are a home.
Wow, man, that is impressive.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Powerful. Man, your voice is amazing.
Thank you. It's taken many years.
Yeah. It did. When I listened, just sitting here live right across from you, it's like, whoa, so good. Thank you so much. All right, everybody. So you've just heard Miki P. Check her out, MikiPmusic.com. Miki P Music on all the platforms and YouTube. So thanks so much for joining us at Spirituality Adventures. See you next time. This concludes today's episode. Thanks for tuning in and listening. Remember, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Remember to like, share, or subscribe to the social media platform that you're using. And then go to our website, spiritualityadventures.com, and make a one-time donation, or you can subscribe monthly and receive our special bonus content. Thanks so much.